Alright, let's look at finding chords in a key. First of all, this will require some understanding of how triads work and how chords are built. And also you'll need to understand how sevenths work in order to create the sevenths out of this. This formula does work for all diatonic scales, not just majors and minors. So if you end up using a melodic minor scale or a harmonic minor scale or any other mode with 7 notes in it, you are going to end up with more exotic sounding chords. But I will show you the basics on a C major scale and know that you can apply this to any other scale. Alright, so let's do it on the C major scale. So what we'll do is we'll write our 2 octaves of our scale. So I'm going to do that quickly. Alright, 2 octaves of our C major scale. So what we'll do is we'll follow this process as if each note is our 1 in our chord. So let me explain to you what I mean. So let's take C as an example. We'll make that the 1. And then we'll just create a chord out of it, 1, 3, and 5. So 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, and then G as 5. So that means then that we have got the notes C, E, and G in our first chord. Right, let's repeat this process onto the next note. So starting at D as our 1. So 1, 2 for E, 3 for F, 4 for G, and 5 on A. That means we've got the notes D, F, and A. Okay, let's do that on E. So E is 1, F2, G3, A4, and B5. There we go, so 1, 3, 5, E, G, and B on our next chord. And then let's carry on with that process throughout. F, 1, A3, C5. And then G is 1, B is 3, D is 5. So we've got G, B, D. And then A as 1, C is 3, E is 5. So A, C, and E. And then finally, you got B as 1, D is 3, and then F as 5. Alright, so this is where understanding of how triads and chords are built will come in. So C, E, and G, we know is a C major chord. So the first chord in our C major scale is a C major chord. So our 1 is C major. Then D, F, and A, our 2 chord. D, F, and A is a D minor chord. And E, G, and B as our 3 is an E minor chord. 4, F, A, and C is an F major chord. 5, G, B, and D is going to be a G major chord. And then 6, we have got A, C, and E, which is an A minor chord. And then finally on 7, you have got B, D, and F, which is a B diminished chord. There we go. Terrible handwriting, but you can make out what I'm saying here. Alright, so you've got all 7 chords inside of your key. So theoretically, these chords should all sound pretty good together. But it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're playing C major, these are the only chords you can use. There are, of course, notes and stuff that you can borrow from other scales. For example, if we go C to A minor and then to E major, that might still sound quite good, but you'll see that we don't have a G sharp note in this scale in order to create an E major chord. Instead, we've got an E minor chord. So that's where experimentation and understanding how to borrow notes from other scales will come in. But that is for a later lesson. Right now, the application is simply to find the chords inside of the key. So I'm going to quickly write these out and then we'll figure out how to make our 7th chords. Okay, so working from our triads now, let's quickly add the 7ths to them. So there are 2 ways that you can figure out the 7ths, one being a little bit easier than the other, but I will show you both processes so that you can follow them in case you need to. So starting on our C chord, if C is our 1, E is our 3, G is our 5, then we just count to the 7th. So that means A is 6 and B is 7. So let's add our 7th on there. There we go. Starting with D, we've got D as 1, F as 3, A as 5, 6 for B, 7 for C. So that is one process you can follow, is starting on one note and counting 7 forward. Or alternatively, what you'll see happen is if I look at C here, which is what we were doing, and I go back just one note, I've got my 7th, i.e. B. If I look at D minor there, we start on the D and we just go back one and we've got C. So let's do E minor that way. Starting at E, our 7th then would be D. Starting at F, our 7th then would be E. Starting with G, our 7th then is F, and you should start seeing a pattern emerge here, which is essentially the same scale, just starting one back, so B, C, D, E, F, meaning that will be G, and then that will be A. So now you've added the 7th note, or the 7th note, to your triads. So now we know what notes exist inside of our 7th chords. So how do we know whether these are major, minor, or dominant 7th chords? Let's take a look. Okay, so one important thing to understand about how 7ths are built is that if we take a major chord and we add a major 7th to it, we create a major 7th chord. If we take a minor chord and we add a minor 7th to it, we've created a minor 7th chord. And if we take a major chord and add a minor 7th to it, we've created a 7th, or a dominant 7th. So a major 7th is if you go back a half step, and a minor 7th is if you go back a whole step. So that applies to intervallic theory, not necessarily to chords. So what that means is that B is a major 7th down from C, because there is no note in between them in our musical alphabet, whereas C is a minor 7th down from D, because there is a note in between it in our musical alphabet, being C sharp or D flat. So that's a whole step from C to D, and that's a half step from B to C. So a half step is a major 7th, and a whole step is a minor 7th. So let's look at what chords we've created. So C, E, and G makes a major chord, and B is a major 7th down, meaning we've created a C major 7. Okay, D, F, and A is our D minor chord, and from D to C is a whole step or a minor 7th interval. So making a minor chord, adding a minor 7th interval to it means we've created a minor 7th, so D minor 7. Then E, G, and B is an E minor chord, and D is a whole step away or a minor 7th interval. So minor chord plus a minor 7th means we've created an E minor 7th. Alright, F, A, and C together create an F major chord. E is a major 7th or a half step down. It's a major 7th interval down from F. That's between there, meaning we've created an F major 7th chord. Then G, B, and D are a G major chord, but between G and F we have got a minor 7th interval. So if we take a major chord and we add a minor 7th interval to it, we create a dominant 7th. In other words, the chord that we've created there for G is going to be a G7. And then for A, C, and E, that's our A minor chord. We have added a minor 7th interval to it, meaning we've created an A minor 7th. And then B, D, and F is a B diminished chord. That is a diminished chord. And to a diminished chord, we are going to add a minor 7th. So a minor 7th plus a diminished chord ends up with a half diminished chord. And that is notated by a half circle, or as I've drawn it, a circle with a line through, something like this. Like that, and that is how a half diminished chord will be notated. Now you know how to do chords in a key. I would recommend starting with your major scales, working through those, and then you can move on to minor scales, and you will notice when you get to the relative minors of all the major scales you've done that you will end up with the same chords, just in different orders. Once you've gotten through that, I recommend giving more exotic scales a go and seeing what interesting chords you can create with them, and then also what interesting chord progressions you can create out of those. Thank you.